What's good, y'all? It's your boy Biospider 3.0, keeping the action going with the SHF Darth Maul. Alright, so this is, again, the first release, not the re-release that came out maybe like a year or two ago. This is the original one that came out like, uh, I keep wanting to say early 2000s. It wasn't early 2000s, but it was probably like around, probably like a little after like 2010, if I had to guess. But yeah, this is that first release. Now you can see I have a cloth goods cloak on him. This does not come with the figure. This is a custom cloak that I got off of eBay. I wasn't able to. I messaged the seller this morning about the cloak. If I could give them a shout out in my review, and obviously they haven't gotten back to me yet. It's still early in the morning, so if they see my message and happen to respond to me later, then I will put, I'll shout them out in the description. But yeah, I got found this cool soft goods robe, and I think it looks awesome on him. The re-release of Darth Maul actually does come with, a robe of its own that SHF did in their re-release. The only problem I have with that robe is that it's a little too baggy, I feel. I've seen reviews. It's too baggy. It's I think it's scaled a little bit too big for him, for the figure. It's nice that at least the hood on that re-release is like wired, so you can kind of like conform it around his face. But this one actually doesn't have any wiring in it, and I still found that it was able to conform to his body very nicely. You can see it lays down very nice on the figure. There's no wires on it anywhere, down here, not in the hood. It really just kind of like lays down pretty nicely. And, I was able to kind of get this, mysterious look because I was trying to, recreate a bit of that mystique from the Phantom Menace, like where you see him and his eyes are kind of covered by his hood. So you can actually kind of achieve that with this figure. I just kind of had to like tilt his head forward a little bit, try to like tilt his head down, and then I was able to angle the hood at a certain way, and it was able to cover his eyes and give him this nice mysterious look. But yeah, so yeah, I think I might honestly have him displayed with this cloak like most of the time in my display, just because I like how it looks so much. I think it really gives him that aura of mystery and whatnot. He is after all the Phantom Menace, so got to keep that mysterious vibe going. But yeah, I'll go ahead and take the cloak off so you can see what the figure looks like as it comes in the package. Oh, and one more thing about this cloak, this very nice soft goods cloak. When I got it, I noticed that the sleeves were actually stitched together at the ends, which I found like kind of odd. I'm not sure why it was made that way. So what I did was I just took some scissors and I kind of like snipped off like a piece of the edges. And then when I did that and put it back on him, I noticed that it was still long enough to where it was covering like most of his hands. And I looked up some images, and when he has the cloak on in the movie, you're still able to see like these kind of forearm like gauntlets or like glove pieces that go up like right here. And so I wanted to obviously recreate that on the figure. So I just basically snipped away a little bit of the fabric, towards the bottom so that, those gauntlet pieces could show. And, as it is now, I think it looks pretty good. So just something to note. But anyways, let's go ahead and remove the cloak so we can see the actual figure. But yeah, I'm very, very excited to finally review this guy. I've been wanting this guy for such a long time, ever since I first saw reviews of him years ago. All right, so here is our SHF Darth Maul. Fix that arm really quick. In all of his glory. And man, just look at this thing. The likeness to Ray Park on this is absolutely uncanny, man. Unreal. I mean, this is definitely the best Darth Maul likeness I think you'll ever see, like at this scale. SHF absolutely nailed it with the face sculpt. Like, look at that, man. Look at the details in that face sculpt. Unreal, bro. So yeah, just absolutely amazing head sculpt. I've got the stoic face on him. I'm not really sure which head comes on him in the package, but because like the one I got had already been opened, so they might have like swapped the heads. But I believe the stoic head comes on him like originally, and then you have the alternate head, which is like the angry face as well. But yeah, I decided to start the review off with the stoic head. And just look at those details, man. Beautiful paint, the red and black, the eyes, like everything looks absolutely immaculate. I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see the eyes. I'm trying to get some focus on it, but the eye paint like looks absolutely amazing. Like those Sith eyes, right? The yellowish, orange, gold, evil looking eyes that he has, just crazy. And then the horns are in that kind of like cream color, cream beige color with a nice wash going through them to really give them some depth. They even got the detail of like this little earring that he wears in the movie, which in case you didn't know, that was actually an accident. Because Ray Park, I think, was just like naturally wearing that or something. And I think like there's a whole story about it. I think like George Lucas didn't really notice until like after they filmed it that he still had that earring on, and they decided to just keep it in. And I love that they did that because it's a small detail, but I feel like it just goes with Darth Maul so well. You know, this tribal look that he has, I think it's like only right that he has like a little piercing or something on one of his ears. So I think that, you know, came out really great on the figure. But yeah, the likeness is just absolutely unbelievable, man. So let's go ahead and get him on the rotating display stand, and then I'll show off the accessories, which are quite small. So I'm gonna have to be careful here not to lose any of these pieces. See, there goes one of his lightsaber hilts trying to roll away from me. Yeah, let me go ahead and rotate this. All right, let's get them all up here on the stand. We'll get him rotating real quick. You can see all of his accessories that he comes with as well on the stand. But yeah, there is your 360 look at this amazing Darth Maul from SHF. Now, this figure does have some problems. I'm going to tell you guys right away. He is definitely not a perfect figure. Honestly, the best thing about him is honestly probably the looks. I mean, looks-wise, they nailed it. I don't think they really could have done any better at this scale. But he definitely does have a few QC issues that we need to talk about. So we will definitely get into that. But yeah, I'll give him one more turn here on the rotating base. And then we'll look at the accessories. And then we'll get into play and display. All right, so let's take him off. Put him aside for a second. Let's take a look at these accessories. So he's got this very nice alternate head sculpt as well, which is done just as well as the stoic one. And you can just look at that, man, that gnarly snarl that he does in the movie at Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Very, very nice. Even the teeth are like nasty and like yellow and black, like looks like, you know, he's got like tar in his mouth or something, but super, super nicely detailed. Very much resembles the movie. And again, those like Sith eyes, all the black lines, the paintwork is very clean on his face. The horns again are very nicely done. Just an absolute great likeness to Ray Park, who absolutely smashed this role as Darth Maul. So very, very nice paintwork on this all around, as you can see. Right, all the horns very nicely painted. So you got that alternate head. And then you get some alternate hands. Now these hands, that's one of the first issues we'll talk about. These hands are ridiculously hard to swap out. I was trying to swap out his right hand, which is, you know, his dominant saber holding hand. And it is a pain in the butt, man. The plastic is like very hard for the hands themselves. And then the pegs that you use to like swap them out, they're very tiny, and it's like very hard to push the new hand like into the peg. And so I was struggling with this for like a long time, and I was like kind of scared I was gonna like break the figure just because he's like so small and the joints seem like a little bit fragile. So yeah, that is one of the major issues that I wanted to get out the way. But yeah, you can see he's got this other holding hand. This is like a saber holding hand, so you can see it's nicely sculpted. Right, his glove is kind of like, you know, fingers kind of curling like he's holding the lightsaber hilt. So he's got that gripping hand. And he's got another one for, let's see, this looks to be his left hand. He's got, or sorry, no, his right hand. This is going to be for his right hand. He's got another kind of like more open hand right here. So he's got that. Again, pretty nicely sculpted though. Nice, mostly matte black finish on these hands, so very good. And then you have some fist hands. You got 2 fist hands. Now keep in mind, these are very tiny pieces, so you're gonna wanna be careful. You know, it's very easy to lose SHF pieces just because they are sculpted so small, especially on these older figures. So just be very careful not to lose any of these small pieces. But yeah, you see how tiny his fists are. So he's got 2 fist hands for each side. I'm just gonna show you one. And then he has this hand right here, another gripping hand, which looks to be for his left hand. All right, so he's got another grip hand for the left. Again, very nicely sculpted, nicely detailed. Really nothing to see, just, you know, mostly just black paint, but that's Darth Maul for you. And then you got this other gripping hand, which also appears to be, I think, for the left as well. But yeah, got this other kind of similar gripping hand for the left side as well. So there you go. So that's all his hands, and then he obviously comes with his iconic lightsaber. So you get 2 individual hilts in the package. The hilts have the blades already installed in them, but just to show you, you know, without the blades, here is one of the hilts by itself. You can see the paintwork is immaculate, very nice silver paint, and you got like those red for the buttons, the black kind of like rings around here, very, very nicely done. And one thing about this one, which is really cool, a nice detail, is that you'll notice at the bottom of the hilt, or like the pommel area, is that this one is just silver at the bottom. It doesn't have like a black ring or anything. So, you know, keep that in mind, right? And then if you look at this one, pretty much exactly the same, right? For the other side of the hilt, the other end of the hilt, right? But this one, as you can see, has like a black ring down here. And that's to show that, you know, Obi-Wan obviously split this in half when they were battling. And so he cut it like right there. So that's like a small difference between each, you know, individual hilt. But yeah, beautiful paintwork, even at like the top, at the emitter area, the black and silver paint, and those red buttons, very, very nicely done, especially for such a small scale. Very, very nice paint, beautiful. And then you have the, of course, connected version of the hilt. So you have, you know, the 2 hilts connected for a nice long saber staff. And then again, the paintwork is just as good. You got the red for all the buttons, the black for the rings, and the, you know, nice metallic silver color for the, you know, majority of the hilt. And it's beautifully sculpted, all those buttons and rivets in there. Oh man, just beautiful, beautiful stuff. So great job on that, SHF, of course. And then you have your 2 lightsaber blades. Now, I might be tripping, but I could have sworn that one of these blades seemed like it was a little more opaque, like towards the end of it. I might be tripping on that, but otherwise they should be pretty much identical. But yeah, one of these like blades honestly seems like a little more translucent than the other to me. Like this one, I don't know how well it'll show up on camera, but this one to me, in person at least, seems like a little bit more translucent compared to this one. Like this seems like a more vibrant, slightly more opaque red compared to this one. But you know, I don't know if that's just my copy or if that's like all the copies. Maybe that was intentional. Maybe like his blades had like a slight difference in the movie. I don't know. Have to go back and watch that scene, but yeah, just something to note. And they obviously both have like little pegs, very similar to like the Hasbro Black Series, and so you can plug those in. Those obviously, you know, plug into these. I took them out of these individual, if I can grab them, these individual hilts, right? In the package, they're already installed into these individual ones, but you know, obviously we want to see the saber staff, so you can, of course, you know, they have a hole up top. And then you just plug these in, and they're pretty nice and sturdy, nice durable plastic, so that's nice. Plug those in, and booyah! Now you have Darth Maul's saber staff, double-sided lightsaber. And this thing looks absolutely amazing, man. So of course he's gonna be able to wield this and look very badass doing it. And I like that SHF and Mafex, something that they do with their blades is they kind of like taper them off towards the end. So they start out, thicker from the emitter, and as it gets towards the end, they kind of like thin out. I like that a lot because that's more accurate to the movies and the shows, and it just makes like the blade look overall more like a sword. Whereas like Hasbro kind of keeps like the same thickness throughout, and then it has like a very like round like tip on it, which doesn't really look like the best, but it's still cool. And you can obviously blend those with Black Series figures, SHF. But yeah, this is very cool. So yeah, you have that, and that's pretty much all of his accessories. And so let's go ahead and get into play and display. All right. So looking at his articulation, it's nice, but it's probably not as good as you think it would be. But we are gonna get into it. So basically, for the head sculpt, he is able to look up about that much. His head's kind of crooked. But yeah, without popping off, his head can kind of go up about that far, which is pretty good, pretty decent. Kind of wants to spring back after after that point. So looking up about that much, looking down goes about that much, which is okay. Again, could be better. But yeah, he goes down just a little more than like looking straight on. And then you can rotate on that ball peg. 360, let's see, yeah, 360 rotation in there. You get a little bit of leaning side to side, which is nice. So you can get more expressive poses in there out of his head. That's nice. He does have, for the arms, he can rotate a full windmill 360 for the arms. He doesn't have a butterfly joint, as you might expect with SHF, but he does have a nice cut, for around the shoulder area for like this, sculpted robe piece that's on him, and that does kind of rotate around the cap of the shoulder, so you can rotate it very similar to like a bicep swivel like that, which is really nice. That's some good range. And then he's got kind of like, I guess, yeah, double jointed style elbows. They don't look like the typical, Hasbro joint that like splits into like two parts. They have these kind of like round cap pieces for the elbow, but it functions like a double joint. So you're able to get some pretty decent range out of the bin. I mean, I would have liked to see a little bit more, but that's good. Better than a 90 degrees. Coming back out, you've got swivel. You got ball pegs for the ball and hinges for the wrist, so you can rotate. And then you can also move the hands vertically up and down, which is nice. That's really good for sword holding characters. So that's really good. Can wiggle those up and down, and also horizontally in and out. Sometimes you just kind of have to like orient the peg which way you want it to go, but it gets pretty much like a full range of motion for the wrist, so that's really nice. He has a waist joint, no upper diaphragm joint or anything like that. This is all pure sculpt up here. He can lean forward only about that much, which again isn't great. This guy's supposed to be pretty acrobatic, so I would have wanted to see a little bit more than that, to be honest. Leaning backwards, again, pretty limited. He's not going back too far. So yeah, just be aware of that. He does get a little bit of wiggle room in there. So it's like a ball peg set up in there. And then you can rotate, obviously, at the waist, which is honestly like the most range you're gonna get out of this joint down here, is the rotation side to side. Now his legs, this is a kind of softer plastic, so I mean you can kind of like lift this up, but it is sculpted, so it is gonna get a little bit in the way of his leg articulation, but he can kick up about that far, a little less than a 90. I don't want to force it too much because when I did earlier, his whole like torso joint came apart from like the bottom. So yeah, and that wasn't really, that wasn't fun putting back together. I mean, it didn't take too long, but I'd rather avoid it if I can. But yeah, he can get close to like a 90 degrees if you really push it. He doesn't have a thigh swivel, but if you lift this up, similar to like the arms, you can kind of like rotate this side to side, double joint style kind of at the knees. So he's able to get pretty good up to his back. So that looks pretty nice, or like at least like his ass. Coming back down, you got a swivel ankle pivot for the foot. It hinges up just a little bit, the foot, just a little bit of a hinge going up, not so much going back or down like that. Definitely doesn't really get to his tippy toes, but you have that. And then you have a toe joint right here, pretty steep toe joint as well. So yeah, and then out to the side, he definitely doesn't get full splits, but he can get about 45, maybe a little better if you really push it. But again, I don't want to push mine too far. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. As far as his articulation is decent, and then he does have like a kind of butterfly joint cap, so he can kind of reach his arms forward like that, which is nice, and then reaching backwards. Oh yeah. So arm might pop off, just be aware of that, be careful. But the good thing is that his arms are like relatively easy to get back in. Just gotta line it up, line that peg up, and yeah, it should pop right back in like that. So yeah, just be aware. Some of the joints on this guy are a little finicky, being like an older SHF. Definitely not as good as like their newer releases, but yeah. So definitely a few issues with this guy. I'll talk more about those in the description, but let's go ahead and do some size comparisons because I am running out of time. Probably gonna have to do a separate video for the size comparisons, but anyways, let's start some of them. Matter of fact, I'll just end it here. It'll be easier because I only got about a minute left. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this review, this part 1 of this Darth Maul SHF review. I will drop the second part, which will just be size comparisons. And yeah, and I'll see you guys in part 2. So thanks for watching. Peace.